You talked about the present moment, the mindfulness, right? And before you had mentioned anxiety, right? So this is something that we talk a lot about in when it comes to VidaProject, our company. Um, and I wanted to ask your perspective on this, which if we living in the present moment, right, is where, if we can assume, is where our most balance is, right? And anxiety is when we're focused on the future. How can we draw a balance between having intention to create a future and still living in the present moment, absorbing and realizing everything that's happening around us?
Great question. So I think that how do we maintain a balance in living in our present moment? And if I understand your question correctly, it's while still having an idea for what our future can be or can become, right? It's
Yes.
all about dosage for me, right? It's all about dosage. In my opinion, everything's about dosage. If you drink too much medicine, it's not good for you, right? And it's the same thing. Love is composed of, commitment, intimacy, and passion. If you have too much passion, it's not love. It's false love, right? So anything that you do too much of, that becomes too overwhelming. See, your present moment is the majority of your current life because you're currently living it. Your future should be at dosages as well, just as your past should be also, right? All those things are dosages, right? So I think having goals is being in the present moment because it's influencing your present actions, right? Having a routine of every day, setting a tone of intention the night before by, maybe reading a book before you go to sleep instead of watching TV or binging on something, right? Getting enough hours of sleep in your day. Like your day starts the night before. And having that intention is looking forward. So I think there's a difference between looking forward, creating goals, and living in your future, right? Living in your future is too much of it, right? Because you have to live in your present moment. So I think that's how I would particularly say it's okay. First of all, everything is okay as long as it's effective. Is it effective for you to only live in your future versus in your present?
That's an amazing question, actually. I love that question. Is it effective to live in your future than in your present moment? That's awesome. So, I mean, I would love to continue going there. So, Rancis, I mean, I think you get pretty excited about that one because Rancis is in the process of creating a course for VidaProject called Rise and Thrive, which is a morning routine that actually places intentions for your day so that you are constantly focusing in your present moment. Would you say that for yourself as an entrepreneur and a therapist, that you constantly practice being in the present moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's even harder for us as entrepreneurs sometimes, right? Because, you know, when we're an entrepreneur, we have to influence others. I mean, in what you guys do, for example, with VidaProject, you guys are always, your goal is also to influence others in every way possible. And what's really difficult about influencing others is making sure that you constantly work on yourself. That's really difficult, I think in my field as well, especially as a therapist. Therapy in general has changed so much, and just thinking about it in speaking, the question that you started with as far as stigma, it's like I feel like there's less stigma and more resistance to go into therapy, because there's that vulnerability that you have to have, and talking to somebody else that doesn't know you, right, and that's not there to know you, right? I'm not there to create personal relationships with my clients outside of the safety of our office, because in reality therapy is about a personal relationship with yourself, within your own psyche, right? Going into everything that created who you are now, who you want to be, you know? So I think that absolutely, that's something that I work on myself. I see a therapist. I advocate for therapists, seeing therapists. I think anybody that is in the helping profession should be seeing a therapist at some point in their life. You know, we got to make time for that. Just the way that we make time for healthy eating, and we have to make time for working out, or we have to make time for faith-based practices, family, children. You got to make time for you in your mental space. You know, and seeing a therapist is going through that process, that mental process. And for me, that's very, very important, because I'm constantly questioning my own thoughts, constantly questioning what I see out there, what I read out there, constantly questioning how my past influences my present moment, and how it's going to create certain obstacles for my future goals.
You know, Jeff, uh, I just thought about this idea of the concept of going in self and exploring self, and how many people actually have a fear of that. So, for example, I heard of this one experiment where they took a group of people, and the challenge was basically that you either stay in a room for half an hour by yourself with your own thoughts, no phone or anything, or you take a little device they had in there and electrocute yourself. It's a light electrocution, but you electrocute yourself, cause pain. And it was something like 70% of people chose to electrocute themselves and stay alone with their own thoughts. So with that being said, um, what do you what can you say to the folks that hear that hear you want me to be going inside, this is crazy in there, I rather avoid it as much as possible, I rather binge watch, rather do something external than go in there? What do you say to those people to invite them, and how does a therapist kind of construct an environment that's safe for them to explore that?
So I'm gonna misquote, right? I'm gonna misquote, but I always think about this quote of Muhammad Ali, right? Muhammad Ali, who said, "Work hard now and reap the benefits later on,"
Mhm.
right? Because I think that yeah, that's the hardest process, is going deep into yourself. Because I absolutely, while I am a therapist, I advocate therapy. One big thing about me and my practice with my clients is to help people understand that therapy it feels worse before it feels better. And it really depends. Obviously, it depends on everything and all the obstacles in your life that you're going through. But in my community, in my particular community, there is a lot of suffrage. There's a lot of poverty. You know, and going into that realm of what you grew up in, that's really hard. You know, and I say that most of the things that make you better are really hard sometimes, until they're not, right? Like working out, it's really hard for many different people, right? Especially if you've gotten to a certain size, that makes it even harder to start. It's going to hurt. We can't lie. It's going to hurt. And it's going to take a lot of effort. And you know what else is going to hurt? When we create negative scenes in our own minds, is changing our routine, because we are humans of routines, right? Like if the only thing around me is arroz con habichuela, right? Because for the English speakers, rice and beans out there, right? And a lack of healthy products, it's going to take more work and more effort for me to maybe have my meals ahead of time, or cook more, or buy fresher ingredients, or work harder so I could afford the better food. All that takes hard work, right? When you're at a job, you're always working hard. There are many people, I would say the same 70% of people, that would choose to hurt themselves instead of stay in a room by themselves, are probably also the same percentage of people that really hate their job, that don't like their job. There's a lot of people out there struggling with what they do, and they don't necessarily have a passion or love for their job. So I say, you do this every day already, right? We choose to go through pain a lot more than we choose to go through development, because that is tougher. That's harder, you know. Uh, but if you do the hard work now, later on, you're going to reap all those benefits. And I think that's the most important part for us to
So
advocate.
what are the benefits? So for example, you mentioned working, right? Working, well, the reward there is getting a paycheck. You mentioned working out, right? The reward there is a more engaged body and feeling really strong. So what's the reward of going to therapy?
So I think the reward of your mental health, right? The reward of your mental health is the best reward you could ever seek to obtain, because your mental health is super important. You know, I don't think that therapy is the most important. I think therapy is a supplement as much as, you know, going to faith-based practice, as much as eating a nutritional meal, you know, or creating a nutritional routine, as much as, you know, going outside to play with your kids or having a better relationship with your partner. I think all those things are super, super important. And the benefit of going to a therapist is really going through the development of your mental health. And isn't that what we all strive to do? The benefit of going to a therapist is not, hey, I go to a therapist. Look, I went 1 session, 3 sessions, I went, right? Where are my benefits? That's not how it works, right? Because people work in the same position years and years and years of their life without being able to move up or without being able to change, right? Because, you know, at least, you know, I come from an immigrant family, and much of my family, they they had to work, and they worked the same job their whole lives. You know, it's like they're not, they didn't have the opportunity, um, the understanding, or whatever it was, the mental space to develop from it. So I think that the best benefit that you're going to get from a therapist is the one that you're going to give yourself, of creating that step forward for mental health. And mental health, physical health, uh, community health, heart health, you know, partnership health, children health, like any level of health is a benefit of its own, isn't it? So I think that that's the best benefit of, I think, going to a therapist, just as much as doing everything else should be.
Yeah, I think it's harder for people, well, at least back then, not so much now, because there's so much science in terms of the brain coming out and showing the actual benefits of actually working on your mindset and going to a therapist or going to a psychologist to be able to create a healthier life overall. But I think that the idea of improving mental health is such an abstract concept. It's not like direct correlation, like almost like working out, right? Where if you work out hard enough, you can see, and you eat the right foods, you can see the results. It's like you're going to a therapist, and it, like you said, it could be years of work to get past one trauma or one thing, or it could be weeks of work that can get you certain. It depends on the person. And I think that's what makes it so difficult to kind of like quantify the benefits of mental health. But it also is a reason why it's so powerful, because if you get this on point, like everything else kind of just falls into place.
Jeff,
Yeah.
sorry,
No,
go
no,
ahead.
go
You were
ahead.
gonna say?
Oh, I was going to say that I completely agree with that. You know, I think that that's definitely very true. And at the same time, you know, just uh, like you said, yes, when you know, when you work out, you could see the benefit, but that also takes a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And once you stop working out, it's like 2 weeks where you stop working out. It's like your body feels it, right?
Yeah.
So it's also something that you have to continue always, right? And then you have to do certain body parts and isolations, and you know, to actually strengthen the whole body versus an aspect of your body, right? Change so many aspects of your body or health in general, while yes, you could see the benefits in getting more energy and doing that, I also say that when you go and you start working on your mental health, I feel like you could also see the benefits, you know, because you could see the benefits of getting a better night's sleep. Like many of my clients, once we go through a couple of sessions and start doing meditation and start doing relaxation for their anxiety, it's like, Jeff, I got a better night's sleep. Wow, I haven't had a better night's sleep in days, in weeks, in months. I think that's definitely very visual. I think like you could absolutely see the benefits of going towards the direction of mental health. You could see it, and more importantly, you could feel it, you know? So I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think that it is harder for people to maybe see benefits in certain realms. And I think that's in fitness as well, right? Like you're not going to see a six pack just because you start working out for a whole month. You know, that's going to take a while,
Yeah.
right?
Moses mentioned trauma, and I wanted to get your take on trauma, right? Because part of therapy is also focusing on overcoming trauma and things like that. So that word of overcoming trauma, your take on it in terms of, do you feel that people need to overcome trauma, like get past it, or do you feel that they need to kind of take ownership of their trauma and get the strength from it? Like what's the balance for a person, you know,
Yeah.
that people have suffered many deep striking traumas, and you know, our brain is set up to compartmentalize and remove the memory of certain thing, or you know, like what are your thoughts on that?
So you know, guys, in therapy as well, like going to a therapist, you know, just because you go to one therapist doesn't mean we're all like that, right? Uh, we're all people as well. Okay, so and I say that because the things that my opinions and the things that I say, you know, I read, I research as well, but it's also going to be a matter of opinion, even within my colleagues and within my field. Okay, because we're all a little different. I'm not the therapist for everyone, right? And even though I think therapy is for everyone, I don't think that particular therapists are for everyone. I think that they're people too, just like not every doctor is the same, not every lawyer is the same, not every fitness person is the same. So I say that because within trauma, and the question that you have about trauma, in my opinion, my understanding, my practice, the way that I picture it is this: there's certain words that I don't like to use, right, or that I'm very careful about using. For example, right or wrong. I don't like to use right or wrong. I like to use, is it effective or is it not effective, right? And obviously, I got this understanding from my professors and my studies and so forth. None of it is genuine to me per se. It's everything that I've understood. And in trauma, I don't like to use the word get past it, right? Or I use the word overcome in a way, but I love the word process, right? Process it. And I love the word taking ownership and taking responsibility of it, right? Because it is yours, it is your experience. A traumatic experience is a recording of an event that took place in your life that has impacted you in some way, shape, or form. A traumatic experience does not have to be the same traumatic experience that somebody else has. A child could grow up with, you know, two parents that have been very much involved in their life, have had very little trouble in their community, in the society, and the divorce of their parents at 12 or 13 is their traumatic experience. And that traumatic experience is equally as difficult to deal with as a child that was raised in the projects and had a traumatic experience of, you know, hearing gunshots outside of their house at 3 or 4 years old, because we only know the life that we know. So trauma for me is something that we need to process, right? Process. And yes, like you said, Rancis, I love it. I love that. I love that word. Take ownership. This is my experience. This was my trauma. This is what impacted me to live the life that I did. And I think processing it versus like getting past it. Like
Mhm.
trauma shouldn't be something that's in front of you that you have to get past. Trauma doesn't have to be something that is above you that you have to overcome, right? In a way. I think trauma is something that's part of us that we need to process and say, hey, this is part of my journey, right? The trauma that I went through. Let me process that trauma, see what lessons it taught me so I can move forward and continue to develop.
So I'm gonna start wrapping it up here. So usually when we go and we end the our podcast with a guest, we ask two questions. So I'm gonna ask you this one question. How do people take this information that we've given them today, and how do they start to apply this in their life?
Start going to therapy. like, I mean, listen, no, honestly, you know, I think in this world, you said something before, Moses, about the difference between like the past and our current present moment. Like, and we have so much access to information, and you know, if anything, I could say to your listeners about how to start this is watch how overwhelmed you become, right? Like the information that we get is super overwhelming. Anybody could have a website. Anybody could put information out there and call it fact. Anybody could go viral, right? Like there's so much information overload now, guys, you know, and I think how you start taking this information is start being mindful of the fact that you are an individual who is going through a journey to overcome. You know, I did a podcast with my therapeutic group, Rocio Day LLC. I did a podcast yesterday with them about, you know, what are our next steps into getting out of this situation, right? And I said something that was really important, and that's the fact that we get to be renewed, and you get to make a choice to be renewed every single day. Yes, you need to process your decisions of the past. You need to take ownership of it. Like Rancis said, you need to take ownership of that. You get to be renewed every single day. Every single day you could make a choice to do something different, no matter what. So I think take this information and make that choice. Make that choice to do something different, you know, and mental health, just as much as physical health, just as much as nutritional health. Those things are important to everyday life.
Awesome. And then how can people connect with you, and how can they find out more information about you?
Right. So you guys could go on my website, rocio-day.org. That's my website for my mental health therapeutic practice. That's rocio-day.org. Or you could go to my support group organization, which is OTW, which stands for Our Team Works. And that's www.otwinc.org. Those two websites, look for us on Facebook at We Are OTW Inc. That's at We Are OTW Inc. And I have that on IG and Twitter as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing. You guys are amazing, and definitely sending over a lot of positive vibes, a lot of blessings to you guys, and hopefully that you guys continue this journey and really helping others develop their lives and their mental health. Thank you for what
Thank
you
you.
guys do.
Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, guys. All right.
All right,
Peace
man.
and love, man. Thanks,
Peace.
guys. Peace and love, Francis. Thanks a lot, man. Great seeing you.
Thank you, Jeff.